Hi, and welcome to another episode of my podcast. I'm excited for today's show. I have on a friend of mine, Nate Goens. He's a fellow believer, went from the coffee business to real estate investing, founder of a Buy It Capital. And he's a family man and a go giver and just a good guy overall. So, with that, let's get started.
All right. Thanks for having me, Kyle.
Hey Nate, hey, it's good to have you here. So before we get started, would you mind just telling me a little bit, or telling us, the audience, I guess, a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Nate Ghoens, I am 41 years old, happily married, now going on for, gosh, let's see, 13 this year. Actually, this year would be 14 years. Got two kids, active duty Navy. Got about 3 years before retirement. So, started looking into real estate investing to kind of line my financial goals up with my financial plans. Um, from North Carolina, grew up in the mountains. Obviously, joining the Navy has brought me to the coast, so I don't get back as much as I like, but definitely a mountain guy at heart. But yeah, just starting this real estate journey about a year ago, and just really excited to continue to grow and learn and invest and bring others along with us.
Awesome, thank you for that. So I'm curious. You mentioned, so I don't know for sure. Are you still? So you started a coffee business, right? At some point,
Yep, yep.
and are
So
you
we
still doing that?
So we sold it in May. So back in 2021, October 2021, we started constructing the business. And so active duty Navy at the time, and due to some of the medical requirements, we had made a decision to forego those. And so ultimately, our retirement plan was to open a coffee business. And so that kind of got fast forwarded, right? I've traveled all over the world. I've had great coffee. I've had bad coffee. And so it had always been a passion of mine. So we just decided, like, hey, let's take a jump at this and be entrepreneurs and work for ourselves. And it's funny, the first cup of coffee I ever made my wife off of our espresso machine, she was like, "You might want to find another job because this isn't going to work." But was certainly challenged with that, and much like I do with anything. Just kind of jump down the coffee rabbit hole, and for anybody that hasn't done that or doesn't know a lot about coffee, it is, you can spend months and months and months learning about this. So that's what I did, right? I wanted to do something different, wanted to do something special. So we opened up a specialty coffee business, built it from the ground up, my wife and I. And it was, and my hat's off to any small business owners, especially owner managers, because it is a lot of work. It was probably one of the most difficult seasons of our life and of our marriage, even much more so than deployments and things like that, just with everything that was going on with the military and uncertainty. So built that, established it here in our little hometown, and then in May, when we knew that the Navy wasn't going anywhere, I started getting into real estate investing. So we decided that we wanted to sell the business and kind of focus on, our exit strategy from the military being real estate investing and not necessarily coffee. Now, coffee is very much still a part of my life. We just don't have the business. So yeah, sold that in May, and that opened up a lot of opportunities for us to be able to invest into real estate.
Nice. Yeah, man, I love coffee, and but there's definitely there's so many different kinds, and some of it just doesn't taste good. There's some that just, man, like, I would just love to have another cup of that, so
Yeah, it really depends on how you make it. There really is a skill set. I mean, my coffee, we built a custom coffee trailer, basically built a small house on it. And my coffee setup looked like a little chemistry lab. I had scales, I had little beakers, I had timers, I had all sorts of stuff. So I wanted if you came to my coffee shop, I wanted you to have the best cup of coffee you've ever had in your life every single time you came. So that was the goal.
awesome. That's good. I definitely wanna get into, kind of the transition into real estate, but first I'd like to, ask you about, well, you're in the Navy, you're active duty
Mhm.
Navy, right?
Yep.
And, I from what I've interacted with people that that are in the Navy or just military in general. There's a lot of good principles and values that come from serving. Like I think just everyone that seems like most people that come from that background are very disciplined. So I'm curious, like, how has that played into your business and personal life?
Yeah. So before I joined the Navy, I was not disciplined. It was definitely the Navy that kind of squared me away. So I think it had a really big impact on my personal life. I don't think that given the route that I was on, I joined the Navy late. I joined when I was 24. I definitely would not be where I'm at. So it's taken that, especially the career field that I'm in the military. It requires a level of maturity, right? You're doing a lot of high risk things, leading a lot of people in different, combat, high risk training evolutions, high risk environments. And then, where I'm at now, literally having and being able to affect, international relationships, right? And international strategy. So it's certainly, it's lent itself to being able to function under pressure, right? And to be a problem solver, which is really important. There's not many things that I've come across, at least in the real estate investing yet, that hasn't been able to be solved. And just again, working under pressure is huge, right? So I certainly think that it's aided in that. Opening up the coffee business gave me I guess, the push that I needed to know that I could be an entrepreneur, and that I could do it well if I really put my mind to it. So I think it's kind of taken both to get me where I'm at now. Of course, I would have liked to gotten into real estate well before now, but as a Christ follower, God's got a plan, right? And everything works together for His good, and that's kind of where we're at, right? Hindsight. Looking back, it's like that was the plan, that was the purpose. So I think it's taken all of that to get me to where I'm at now, because the maturity level that I had, I wouldn't have been able to handle my money the correct way. Certainly, if I can't handle my own money the right way, what means I'm going to handle somebody else's money the right way. So it's been a process, and been amazing. Definitely hard, but been worth it.
Got it. Yeah, I think I could definitely benefit from that ability to make decisions fast, like on your feet. Like I think that's something that I, being very analytical, sometimes I take way too much time to actually make a decision or take action.
Mm,
So I like that.
sure.
And you mentioned one of my favorite verses actually is it Romans 8:28, that
Hmm.
God works everything together for good, for, to the good for the ones that love Him. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I'd like to just dive into that a little bit. Faith is something that's very important to me. And so I'm
Mm.
just curious, I guess, how has that kind of played into your just overall your life?
Yeah. So I was actually an atheist prior to having a
Really?
relationship with the Lord. Yeah. Um, I didn't grow up in the church. I went to church occasionally. My mom was a Christ follower, still a Christ follower, but I just, I was rebellious. And yeah, up until I met my wife, I was actually, the stipulation for me to date my wife was that I would pursue a relationship with the Lord, per her father. And so, I'm like, yeah, I can do that. I'll go to church every other Sunday. Didn't really know what it meant, right? And just kind of along that journey of mentorship and discipleship, realized that I had a need. I had something that it just wasn't fulfilled, and the carnal self in the world wasn't doing it either. But before that, yeah, very much so an atheist. Didn't believe in God. Didn't want anything to do with God. And then just along the journey, gave my life to Christ in 2009. And then just throughout the process of sanctification, right, have grown closer. Got really big into Christian apologetics, which is based off First Peter 3:15, basically to give a defense for the reason and for the faith that you have in Christ, right, the hope that you have in Christ through scientific, philosophical, and historical truths, right. So very much a part of my life, even in the military, in my community. It was difficult as a new guy, to be a believer. Not so much now as a senior enlisted. Not many people are going to say anything, and I've actually had a lot of opportunities to witness. But that is actually where Abide Capital came from. So our coffee business was Abide Coffee and Co. And so now we transitioned to Abide Capital Group, and that's off John 15, right? Abide in the vine. So very much so, we seek, seek prayer in every decision that we make. Probably sometimes we could be more prayerful, but definitely Christ is a driving force in my life, military, outside of military. So there's no delineating.
Awesome, man. That was powerful testimony. Appreciate you for sharing that. I've really
Absolutely.
found that getting into the podcasting, like that's one of my favorite things to talk about. And actually, my last guest, Quentin, we met through a Christian like kind of a boot camp.
That's
But
awesome.
I hadn't realized that about him. But he also used to be an atheist, and he shared
Hmm.
his
Yeah.
testimony as well on the last show. So yeah, this is great. Appreciate
Yeah,
you
there's a
for
there's a lot of apologists out there that were atheists, that were on a mission to prove Christianity wrong, and in doing so, essentially prove to themselves that there was no denying it. And I love reading those authors. So
awesome. Yeah, I think God is definitely going to make some big moves here in this coming year, and He's just continuing to. It feels like every year passes, He's just making greater things happen. It seems like so. I'm excited for what the future holds. So yeah, let's get into real estate, man.
all right.
Um, why? I guess you're involved in different types of real estate. I know we met through the middle class to millionaires course is where we met, but you're also interested in short term rentals as well.
Hmm.
Just I guess share a little bit. You had touched on it briefly. You know
Hmm.
why you like real estate, but maybe just go a little bit deeper on why you
Sure.
like to invest into real estate and
Yeah. Yeah.
what your
So
goals are for that.
so for me, I've been investing in the stock market for a long time, since 2014. And so looking about a year and a half ago, actually probably about a year ago, and especially after we opened the coffee business, I started retirement starts getting closer, right? I was about 4.5 years out when I started looking at my index account, the stock market, right? And throughout the time I was investing in, I'm like, what, every time the money goes up in there, it's only because I'm putting it in, right? I'm not seeing a lot of returns. Now, I wasn't being super risky with my holdings in there, but just realized that my financial goals, or my financial plan wasn't adding up to my financial goals of what I was trying to achieve, right? And for me, I want to be out of the military 20 years. I want to replace my income with real estate investing income, whether that's passive or active. And so that's really kind of what pushed me to make a decision and to educate myself on, like, how are the wealthy making money, right? How are my buddies doing this? Because I see a lot of my friends getting into real estate investing, and that are able to retire. And so what is it? How are they doing this? And so it just kind of kicked off an educational journey of, like, if I'm going to do this, because God's entrusted me, right, with what He's provided me with my money, with my skill set, whatever it may be. So to be a good steward of that, to be a good steward of my family, and so realize that that's the path that I wanted to take. So then I started formal education, with middle class to millionaire. And so that's kind of why I got into it, because I saw the returns that it could provide. Ultimately, the cash returns, right? Because the stock market, you can put money into it and you can pull it out, but you're not getting that, monthly or quarterly distributions, right? And that's what I need to be able to retire from the military at 20 years. I need something to replace the income, and the stock market wasn't doing that, right? I still have money in there, but I'm definitely focused and I'm concentrated on real estate.
Awesome, yeah. That's there's so many different benefits. It feels like a no brainer for me, like once I started learning about it, it's like, man, this is the way I got to go. Now I'm still really new to it. Um, I have a duplex that I've owned for a while, but
Mm,
definitely trying to get into syndicating. But you mentioned the short term rentals, which is something that I've looked into, but I just don't. I feel like I should kind of educate myself on multifamily and try to find a deal first. But yeah, it's definitely something I've considered. And actually, my personal property, I hope to turn it into an Airbnb here in the
Mm.
next few years, hopefully. So,
Sure.
uh,
Yeah, and that's that's probably one thing that is a fault of mine at times, because I do believe that concentration grows wealth, right? And if you want to be really good at something, you've got to focus on it. I when I first got into investing, I was looking at all different asset types, right? I was looking at mobile home parks, I was looking at RV parks, I was looking at multifamily, I was looking at short term rental. So for me, from going from like 4 or 5 different asset types and narrowing it down to multifamily and short-term rentals, that's how I was able to kind of narrow my focus. Now there's a lot of people out there, and I would agree it kind of depends on the personality, that if you want to be good at multifamily, focus on multifamily. You want to be good at short-term rental, focus on short-term rental. For me, I'm trying to make the puzzle pieces work because I've got other, I want to be able to have a place that my family and I can go vacation at as well, right? And being able to do that, with short-term rentals, and be able to turn a profit and get some good cash on cash returns, because as starting out syndicating, I haven't syndicated anything yet. I'm a limited partner on 189 units, but I haven't syndicated yet. And so to syndicate, it's not necessarily creating those monthly distributions, right? You're looking at your acquisition fees most likely, and maybe that gets rolled into the deal, but you're not really making your money until the sell or refinance of that property. And so I'm trying to find something again to make that puzzle, to fit that puzzle together, to say, how do I fill those gaps where I don't have that money coming in? And some of my mentors and just people that are in the middle class to millionaire group, they do talk about like, hey, start your portfolio out with some joint ventures, some smaller units, so you can develop some cash flow, and then move into syndications if that's what your financial goals look like. So.
yeah, I like that idea because, like you said, like a syndication is a long term play,
Mhm.
wealth building wise, and it's key to it's definitely important. Like we need to have some cash flow short term as well to pay for expenses and that nature.
Yep.
So I am actually kind of looking for something else as well as I'm learning about multifamily and actively looking for deals, but also want to find something else that can provide that more short term cash flow. So I
Sure.
think that might be an avenue I consider.
Yeah, it's I'm learning a lot, because some of it, some things with short-term rental and multifamily absolutely cross, right? There's strategies that work for both, but I'm also finding out that, short-term rentals is its own world, and ultimately to have a good return, a good cash on cash, you have to self manage, because the management companies on those properties are charging anywhere between like 15 to 30% to manage a property, and that just crushes cash flow. So I'm having to take on more of learning the management side of it, right? I know how to what the metrics are for good investments, right? I know how to measure those, and I know how to underwrite the properties. But I'm learning the management side now, and I want to get it automated, right? So I don't spend a whole lot of time on it. Spend a couple hours a week and have the majority of it automated. And so that's kind of the goal. That's the big learning curve right now, is how do I manage it, and what are the systems that are used to manage it? How do I streamline that? So definitely a growing curve, without a doubt.
hmm Yeah, I'm curious. You mentioned underwriting. There's a few different components to multifamily. There's finding the deal and underwriting it, and there's raising the capital, and then there's also the operations side. What has been the biggest, I guess, hurdle or challenge for you as far as those three?
As like looking at short-term rentals or looking at multifamily.
Actually, multifamily.
So I would say more. I think capital raising, has been maybe the more daunting one. I think that, and it's broken record here, right? Like, when it's time to raise capital, that's not like, if you have a deal online and now you're like 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, right? And that's the time frame that you have to raise capital, you're already behind the power curve, right? So kind of stepping outside of my comfort zone and realizing, one was a confidence thing, right? I'm like, man, I'm just getting started in this. How are people going to be confident in me as a syndicator when I've never syndicated before? How do I leverage other people's experience or my experience in the military to say, hey, I may not have the track record yet, but here are the things that you can count on, right? Based off of what I've done, the experience of the other people that are within my general partnership team, things like that. So capital raising, that's been my big push, since we started that in the deal cage with the capital raising kickoff there for 2 weeks. And so, man, I just grabbed it by its horns. I'm like, let's do this. Like it's time to focus on that. So the hard part is like, how do you have those conversations with people, right? I really like for people to come to me. I want to draw them to me before I have to come to them, right? But ultimately, when I start talking about what I do and what I'm doing, that's when people start asking questions. So yeah, definitely capital raising, because it's a lot of money, right? That's when you really think about it, it's a lot of responsibility when you're dealing with people's life savings, or a significant amount of money to them and to me. Like, you have to be locked in, you've got to be squared away, and you got to know what you're talking about, because one, it can ruin people's lives, right? It can ruin relationships with people, especially, I think it's a double-edged sword when you're talking about raising capital from friends and family, because let's say the deal goes south and you just raise capital from your father-in-law, right? And let's say that he puts 100,000 in, you can only give him 50,000 back. Like, well, Christmas is going to be really odd the next time you go, right? So you got to be locked on, man. And that's one thing that I've learned is, getting out there and doing capital raising has, especially with these Facebook lives, we talked about that a little bit ago, but it's challenged me to one, make sure that my foundation is strong, that I'm locked on. And I had to go back and kind of touch on some things in preparation, so yeah, I think capital raising has been the biggest part. Underwriting was hard to learn, but once I did it 50 times, I feel pretty confident at doing it now, and at least being able to get a pretty good idea of what a property is going to look like, and do it fairly fast. I still have some growing pains with it, but
Hmm. Yeah, I love that, and I think capital raising is definitely probably the most important skill to learn for anyone. I mean,
hmm
especially especially going into these next few years, I feel like it's going to be even harder. So having that, being able to have that skill set is going to be huge. And
sure.
I want to just say kudos to you for doing those like those lives and just
Oh,
taking action. Like doing the capital raising kickoff, I just saw you consistently, doing the right things and doing the hard things. Because for me, like a live video, this isn't live even, and it seems easier. But man, once I hit like let's go live, it's just like it's a different animal. So I just want to
yeah,
shout out you for doing that. So what? How did you
appreciate
like?
that.
I guess I'm sure you still had some reservations about it, or some some nerves going
All
about. So how
26
did you overcome
episodes, I
that?
had reservations.
So, but yeah, just curious, how did you like overcome that?
Oh man. I was challenged by one of the members in the group. She had mentioned that she took that 30-day challenge, and really how, the things that it taught her to step out of her comfort zone. Naturally in the military, especially with what I do, that they don't say don't be on social media, but it's definitely like, don't be on social media, right? And if you are, don't don't post certain things, right? Don't have a presence on there. So that was kind of hard to break out of that, because I realized that I have to have a presence on social media, to so people that I grew up with know what I'm doing, right? And so I think it was, dude, every single day that I would get on a Facebook Live, I just talked about this in my very last video. Like, I was more nervous to do a Facebook Live than I've ever been briefing generals and admirals. Like,
Really?
and I don't know what it is, but I'm such a perfectionist. So when I shoot videos for my investors, right, and I send them out in emails or just like informational things, I'll spend 2 hours on a 30, like I'll on like a 3-minute video, because I'm constantly reshooting. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. So the live forced my hand. It was like, you're doing it, and you don't get to look back. Like, this is live. You're going live. So it was hard, dude. Every single day it was hard. Like, I had to come up with content. I had to make sure the content was good. the more that I looked at my videos, and I'm an instructor where I'm currently at, like that's my billet. But looking at the videos and listening to yourself talk, you're like, oh my goodness, like how many times do I say and you don't even realize it. But it's like I black out when I get in front of a camera. I'm like, I'll go back and watch the videos again. I'm like, I didn't remember saying that. But it was a challenge nonetheless, man. But it was good. I got a lot of encouragement from people. I got a ton of views. And I was really excited about that. I still am, but I looked up the analytics of how Facebook measures views, and it's like, if somebody stayed on your page or had the video on for 3 seconds. And so, my first two videos, I had almost 300 views on it, which is a lot, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's a lot of 3-second views. But when I went back and looked at the analytics, it was like, oh, it was 3 seconds, right? So, but nonetheless, like people, I didn't have a presence, and now I kind of forced the presence, whether it was good, bad, or ugly, right? Was it too much? I don't know. Time will tell. But now people know what I'm doing, and if I can stay consistent with posting now and doing, live like every couple weeks or something, right? Now people know what I do. I got through it. I got comfortable being uncomfortable. But that doesn't say when I shoot more videos, I'm not going to be nervous. When I do a normal Facebook post, I get nervous.
Yeah, but I do think people that inspires other people from what I've seen. Like I haven't done the live challenge, but just the stuff I've been putting out, it inspires other people, and I
Yeah,
think that's what
absolutely.
I think you're doing that. So yeah, just a big shout out to you for doing the uncomfortable thing. And for me,
Thanks, man.
this is a this is a challenge for me as well. You probably don't know this about me, but I used to be an Amish kid, so this is uh this is quite the experience for me as well, just putting
Yeah,
myself out there.
that's awesome, man. Good for you.
Well, yeah, thank you. But yeah, I don't, I tell people, some people are like freaking out, like they don't believe it. But
That's great,
anyways,
man. Yeah.
I'd like to talk about. So this podcast is called Real Impact. It's kind of like real estate and impact together. But that's kind of my like. I think we're all as entrepreneurs like. Obviously, we want to create generational wealth and all that, but we also most
Mhm.
people, want to create a legacy and leave an impact and change the world. So what does that mean for you?
My legacy ultimately, thinking about my family, right? I saw a post the other day, and a guy was talking about like to the effect of your multiple late nights in a row, or your 80-hour weeks won't be remembered by anybody but your kids, right? And that hit me hard, because I'm like, I can get so focused on financially creating a safety net and a legacy, right? That I can take for granted the time, right, that I have with them, like my where I can give them uninterrupted time. And so for me, like it's a balance of providing security, but also when my kids look back, that they don't remember the 80 hours and how much dad was gone, or how much that dad was on his phone, right? It's a balance of like, man, he did that well, but he also was a phenomenal dad. And that's really it, man. I want to leave a legacy as a Christ follower, but I want to lead my family well. I want to be a great husband. I want to be a great dad. And so, yeah, I can get lost in that at times of focusing solely on my business and not necessarily on what I'm doing it for. Right. My goal is to have freedom, time freedom, to get back the time, when Lindsay and I first got married. I was out of the 6 years that we were first married, I was gone almost 4 years of that, right? And so I want to get back the time, but then I'm working so much and so distracted that I'm still missing it, right? So I would say that's kind of it for me, and bringing people along. Like I wish I would have known about real estate investing and being just savvy with like how money works, and I used to, obviously everybody talks about rich dad, poor dad, and really having that mind shift of like, hey, I got to stop working for my money. My money has to work for me, right? So I would say to kind of sum all that up, man, to be a godly man, to be a great dad and a husband, and to bring others along.
Awesome. That is very good. Appreciate you for sharing that. And I guess wrapping up, I always ask. There's always like two questions I have that I ask everyone. I love reading,
Hmm.
and so I'm curious. Uh, what like is there like three books that you could share that have helped you and that would help someone else, not just real estate, but just anything personal development wise or real estate that you could share?
Yeah, so you and I are the exact opposites because I don't like to read, but
Uh,
I'm working on it, right? Because in the military, that we always talk about leaders or readers, right? One of the books that I'm going through right now, I have a tendency like if I don't know something, that's what I focus on, right? So I really wanted to understand tax strategies, right? We talk a lot about that in real estate, in that if you know the tax strategies, real estate is just an incredible vehicle to grow wealth. So I actually have the book sitting here right beside me, but it's called "The Book on Tax Strategies for." There we go, for the savvy real estate investor. And man, it really dumbs it down, and I mean that in a good way, right? Because the tax code. I can't remember how many pages they said it was, but it's like 1,600 pages or something like that, right?
it's a lot.
And so just learning some strategies, I would highly recommend, right? I think we kind of, at least for me, I've seen it where people just want the answers given to them by someone else, but they don't ever go to look at the information to make sure it's correct. So definitely that. And I would say really for, I mean, obviously I'm a biblical man. So for me, the Bible, right? Daily, getting in God's word, and staying sharp on that. But I have some work to do in regard, and I don't want to say Rich Dad Poor Dad because everybody says that book, right? But definitely, if you haven't read it, read it. So I'd say those are my two right now. I do have a book coming in on short term rentals called Short Term Rental Long Term Wealth, and just some strategies on how to grow wealth through that. So definitely, I see the value of reading and the importance of it, and I gotta get focused. So
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Final question. If you could meet your 18-year-old self, what would you tell him?
oh man, so many things. I, it's easy to say like look into real estate or like learn about finances and money. I say the real estate part because that's what I'm in. I think I would more for me, man. I would say probably stop partying so much and like learn about like growing and building wealth. I probably would be that, or you know, find Christ. Like because I was lost back then, right? That would probably that's what changed my life. So that would probably be number one is stop being a knucklehead. But definitely get savvy with finances, and get focused. But as an 18-year-old, I wouldn't change anything that I did. I don't let my past define me, right? I let it guide me, and so I am who I am because of my past. But I certainly would have liked to have been a little bit more financially savvy before 41.
Got it. That's very good. Well, I really appreciate you joining me today, and I just love seeing what you're doing, and keep crushing it, my man.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Kyle. Thanks for having me on, man. Enjoyed it.
Thanks, Nate. Yeah, definitely, and thank you everyone for watching.